The first thing I do is I trace my ruler. I'm going to do it 4 times with a little bit of a gap in between. Now I'm going to go over and I'm going to make 6 boxes, each being 2 inches wide with a 1/2 inch gap in between. This just helps the watercolor to not spill all over the place. The little barrier in between, but you don't totally have to have it. I always line my ruler up with the side of the paper because if it is parallel to the side of the paper, I know that I'm not holding it crooked. So now I'm splitting those boxes in half. I realized I wanted one more row, so I'm doing that here. I'm not very good at math, so for 2 inches, I'll just count how many 1/2 inch marks that is, so I don't have to slide my ruler over. Now I'm just doing the up and downs, having the ruler, the bottom of the ruler parallel to the bottom of the paper to make sure it's straight. Now I'm writing what each box is going to be. The first one's going to be water, then paint. The second one's going to be paint, then water drops. The third one's going to be paint, a mixed color, then salt. The first one on the bottom row is going to be dry brush, then spatter, then light to dark on a shape. Watercolor is traditionally uses round brushes. So when I'm doing it, I want to make sure that I'm not slamming the tip of the brush down because that will break the point off and I won't have it for details. So when I load the brush with paint, I don't ever jam it down point first. I use it to the side. I add water and load my brush with paint. Now, as I'm starting to do the stripes, I want to get all the way dark to all the way pure white by the end of the row. So what I do is I load the brush from the beginning, go a little ways, about, I don't know, 1.5 inches, and then I shake a little bit of the paint out into the water. Then I'll bring the brush back. It's got a little bit of water, a little bit of paint, and then I keep going sideways. Notice my brush strokes are going sideways, sideways, sideways. I'm not striping it all the way down. It's very hard to get it all the way to white by the end of your paper, by the 12 inches. So this is the best way to do it. Sometimes I'll mix the colors. The hardest color to do are the warm colors. The cool colors are easier to get lighter faster. So that's why I started with blue and green, but now I'm coming down to red because I like red too. But I know that it's going to be a little harder to get all the way to white. I'm mixing the colors here for the browns just because they're a little bit light. Each stripe is just kind of a one-shot deal. If it doesn't look good and I try to add back, it doesn't usually work. So I would let the paper dry and then start again after it was dry. Now I'm starting with the boxes. The first one is water and then paint. So I'm just going to drop the paint on it and see if the paint explodes. Different brands of paint and different colors will do this technique better. I use this if I want to, well, sometimes just for video recording because it looks pretty and relaxing, but I'll do this if I want a large area of one color. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm painting it with paint and then I'm going to drop water drops on top of it. This just looks cool. I don't know what I use it for. So I'm just doing the drops on it. If you had a water dropper, you could do that as well. Now I'm just kind of mixing the colors. I like kind of a chartreuse green, so sometimes I'll mix the green and the yellow. And this one I'm painting it, and then I'm going to add salt. I usually add kosher salt, but any salt will do. The mixing colors, I try not to mix them all the way because the salt just makes it look cool. Now the third thing I'm going to do is dry brush. So I loaded my brush and then I dabbed some of it out on a paper towel and I want the texture of the watercolor paper to show. I use this when I do sunsets mostly. The last one I'm doing is a spatter. No, second to last. On spatter, I try to find the oldest, jankiest brush I can find, and then I spatter it and try not to spatter my friends. The last box is light to dark on a shape, which is exactly what the stripes are, but it's in smaller area. That's kind of like, here's the real life exercise of doing what we were training to do on the stripes. This is what you'll do when you do eyeballs or when you're drawing most anything. You're trying to get things to look three-dimensional by having things a lot of times darker on the outside and lighter towards the inside. So it's just what the stripes are teaching us to do, but on a smaller scale. Also on the salt, don't take the salt off until it's totally dry. A lot of times I wait till the next day. The next part, I'm going to draw two still life objects. A still life object is just something that is still, so it's not a dog or a pet or a person. And I'm just going to draw it with pencil, and then I'm going to color one of the objects with monochromatic paint. That means with one color. And the other one, I'm going to paint it with polychromatic paint, which means many colors. So the first one, it's just going to be water. Thinning the water is what's going to create the lighter areas. In watercolor, you do not use white. White is the color of the paper. And it's very hard to do. It's actually the hardest medium to master, which is weird that they give it to little kids, but it is also washable. Then the second cup is going to be polychromatic. So I'm going to try to use lighter colors such as yellow to be the light areas, and then darker colors that recede such as purple to be the darker shades. And you just kind of mess with it. It's not an exact science. It's just kind of like try it and play around. When I start painting my monochromatic one, I start with some dark areas, but I don't want to outline everything. Outlines tend to make things look flat, like cartoons, and I'm trying to make mine look three-dimensional. So, but I do start with the darks, and then I just go in and add some water to try to smear it over, the same way that I did the stripes, but on the smaller scale. When I'm looking at my objects, I squint my eyes a lot to try to just decipher the light and dark. Drawing from life in this way is more challenging than looking at a photograph. If you wanted to try it, you could like black and white a photograph to see the lights and darks, but you also want to train your eye to do it in regular life. And the polychromatic, I just try to do the lights with the lighter colors and the darks with the darker colors. And just kind of mess around and try to make something I think that looks good. Once dry, I'm scratching off the salt. I know some artist people who save this colored salt and reuse it. That might be cool.